back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of The Save Point. I am your host, Joker.
And I'm your co-host, Shepard.
How have you been, sir? How have you been?
I've been very well. Playing games. That's what I do best. What about you?
I've been doing pretty well, my friend. I've been doing pretty well. Like yourself, playing a couple of video games here and there, just enjoying life as it is. So we actually have a pretty interesting video that we're going to be doing today, Shepard. So we're not going to be discussing a singular title this time.
No, it's going to be
spicing it up a bit.
It's quite broad, actually. It's 6 moments in video games that put the fear into us, put the dread or the tension.
Absolutely.
Which is in itself a pretty broad topic. You know, anything could make you afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Any game can make you afraid, which I think is very interesting. We're not just going to be like, oh, here's 6 horror games and we're gone. No, I think there'll be some interesting surprises. Maybe some people will relate to, maybe some they never expected.
But this is it, and it's going on what you said there, like the whole narrative of a scary moment in a video game. Like it can go from anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be your survival horror. It doesn't necessarily have to be your first person kind of Outlast kind of experience. It can be from anything that, like, literally I've got a list that I'm sure you do as well of just those moments when it puts the fear into, like, oh god, this is not right. And I love little moments like that. But I think also it's important to premise that the entries in the order that we're describing and talking about, it's not to say that this one is going to be our favorite one or this one is my least favorite one. They're literally just our 6 moments.
Yeah, it's not a countdown per se of like number 6 is this, number 5 is this. It's just, if anything, I say I paced mine in a way that just be kind of a more interesting way of kind of keeping a flow, as opposed to number 1 is the most or worst and number 6 is the best or worst, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever been a fan of that numerical rating system anyway. I haven't, especially even when it comes to reviewing video games. Like, I'd give it a 6 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. I've never been a fan of that.
No, I'd be more along the lines of, like it's a t-shirt out of somewhere. I don't know. It was supposed to be a clever joke. I couldn't think of anything. I think one other thing to be clear on as well is we don't know each other's lists. We're going into this blind, so genuine reactions. I'm already blind. Genuine reactions to each other's choices. There may even be some crossover. We don't know. So it's going to be quite interesting in that regard. So it's 100% legit.
And I've kept a few in the pipeline reserve just in case you have mentioned something that I might have. I've got a few just kind of tucked away in the back, but the ones that I have written down at the moment, I say written down, nobody uses pens and papers these days. We live in the age of new technology. I've stuff typed on my phone that these were, okay, I'm going to focus on these. I'll tweak them a little bit, but these are my definite ones. So I'm going to throw a right curveball at you, right? There was a moment in gaming, I swear. Have you ever, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but it came from Fable.
Oh.
Do you remember Fable, the PC game?
I never played it.
Man, I played it years after it came out. I got it, believe it or not, show you how old I am. I got it from my local Game. Do you remember Game?
Oh, Game.
I know.
Oh, I miss Game.
I know. I got it from Game, right? And it was for the PC at the time. I didn't have the Xbox to play the game on. It was on Xbox and PC. I got it on the PC and it was 4 discs in it. And I was like, good Lord, this is going to be a big one. But essentially, it's an action-adventure RPG game where you start off as a child and you grow up in the game. So you go from a child to a teenager and to an adult to old age, you die. And the company who made the game itself were called Lionhead Studios. They're based out in the UK at the moment, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But
Peter Molyneux, wasn't it?
Peter Molyneux, yeah, he was the head director and creative director behind the Fable games. The company themselves, I think they've gone under, along with their reputation with the later Fable games. They went off and did the whole, when the Wii was big, they had where you hold the 2, what do you call those, the 2 nunchucks or whatever, and you could control the character on the game, on the screen with these controllers. It didn't work out, but I'm specifically talking about Fable 3, okay? Now, I must say, the cast in this game, the voiceovers, like, you've got John Cleese, Michael Fassbender, you've got Ben Knightley, Jonathan Ross is in it, Simon Pegg is in it. It is a huge cast, so this was a big game. So just to give a bit of clarity behind where I'm going with this, you essentially are a prince, your brother is the king, who is played by Michael Fassbender, and he's a bit of a dick, basically, and he banishes you from the kingdom because you stood up to him, because he's kind of like a dictator. Nobody in the kingdom loves him, nobody respects him, he's basically a tyrant. And the game does evolve around like a choice consequence kind of thing, so you can either side with the villagers or the citizens, or you can side with your brother, but it's kind of like that fake choice consequence thing where the game has already decided what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the part that I'm specifically talking about, it's way into the game, and you as the prince, you're escaping some village in some part of Albion, from what my memory says, but your companion, you've two of them. One of them is your faithful dog, and the other is a guy by the name of Walter, and he's kind of the older knight who guarded your family, so he's known you since you were a kid. So it's only you guys, you three, your companion, the dog, and Walter, and your boat capsizes on this beach, and the only safe haven is this cave. Now it's important to know that everything leading up to this point has been all jolly, happy, very bright graphics, very funny moments in the game where you like this is coming from a game where the reputation is built on how far you can kick a chicken. Right? It's that silly stuff. It's that silly stuff that every right? Like, and that is one of the mini games you can do. It's like, how far can you kick this chicken, and you get 500 pieces of gold if you can kick it a certain. So it's really kind of goofy kind of stuff. Then the game does a 180, right?
Shit.
So here's the thing, right? So you go into this cave, and it's important to know as well that Walter is terrified of the dark, and he's claustrophobic, right? So while you're traveling in through this cave, I don't know what it is in these moments, but there's no music, right? There's nothing, it's silence. All you can hear is your footsteps. And as you descend into this cave, a music box is playing in the background, like one of those little music boxes that it almost sounds like a little mini xylophone. But this voice comes through, and the voice is basically, it's saying like you'll always be tainted, you'll never leave here, the children are watching you, those broken, dirty, damp little toys. And all these kind of shadow creatures start coming up, but like they start taking the appearance of the people that you've met previously. Okay. So you don't know if it's real or not, but it's this music box that's playing in the background, along with the way that the voice actor is portraying this ethereal dark being. It's absolutely, like, for a game that like a chapter or two previous you were farting on a stranger's head, to fighting these it's the craziest thing, to fighting these shadow creatures. But it's how the voice actor portrays that darkness, like he says, like, your king knows the truth and all this. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm legitimately kind of cold right now. I'm just, and there's a part where Walter gets he actually comes face to face with this thing. He starts yelling in the darkness because your torch is starting to go out, and all these shadow monsters are creeping in, and Walter he's trying to protect you, basically, because he's still like that wise older Jedi character. Yeah. And he starts shouting, like, if you're out there, like, come face to face with me, who hides in the dark, you coward. But like the camera is following him as he's doing this, just kind of like circling around him. So like you're watching Walter kind of spin around, and as the camera comes forth, he's face to face with this demonic 3-headed Nazgul looking thing. And it's just, it was such a vast contrast to the hour or two beforehand, when you're dealing with this like happy, cheery land, and all of a sudden you're shipwrecked and have to go through this cave with this music box playing in the background. It's just, it's something so eerie about the place. Like it legitimately made me feel this isn't right. Like I don't like this. So I thought I just had to put that one down, because Fable has that reputation, once again, of being a little bit silly and being a little bit jovial and over the top. And then
even the art style, like the art style is very cartoony looking almost. Like, I know it's kind of there was a lot of browns and grays and stuff. That was just the time it came out.
Yeah.
but that yeah, just I didn't know they ever went into that kind of territory before.
It was
In my
dark,
head, it
like,
was. I think I played about 15 minutes of Fable 3. I think I got
yeah,
it with Xbox Games with Gold, or in like 2000, whenever the fuck it came out.
2007, 8, 9, something
Yeah,
like that.
and I played it then, and I was like, it's cool, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I may visit those games now, especially after hearing that. Like, holy shit!
It's dark, like, and the thing is, like, this voice is in the background as you're going through this, like, it turns out to be a maze underground, like it's this old kind of temple. But
Yeah.
like, even when you're about to like cast a magic spell, this thing called the crawler will be like, it's not going to work. Fire doesn't hurt my children. You know, it's crazy. It was just like, oh my god. So I had to put that one down just to kind of get the ball rolling. I didn't think you'd know that was going to come up. But that's about showing a little twists here and there.
And that's honestly, it's I think it showcases something I love about the medium with video games. And don't get me wrong, like film and television, even comics, books, all of it, they can have these moments of terror in generally non-scary experiences.
Yeah.
But something about it when it happens in a video game, because it's happening to you, the player, and in an RPG where it's literally your character.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. God. And it makes you care so much more, because just going back to the example I gave there, you're trying to calm Walter down.
Yeah.
Like by putting your hand on his shoulder and saying, it's okay, like just stay beside me. Your dog is cowering, you know? So your dog is crying. Walter is freaking out because he's afraid of the dark and he's claustrophobic. And you as the player, it's like, what do I do? Like it kind of feels like I'm by myself here, which you kind of are. But it's like, do I keep going forward and put their sanity and their health at risk? Or do we go back and try and salvage a ship and swim out of here? But the only way you can go forward is by going through like this dark kind of sludge that's crawling down the walls, and that bloody music box is still playing in the background. It's like, it's supposed to be like a child's kind of toy, but in this situation, it's the only piece of music that you hear, and it's being amplified by this voice just echoing throughout the chamber. It's so well done. So well done.
Well, now I have to play that. I'm gonna start with the first one. I'm gonna play through them all. I have my Xbox One there, so I'm like, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna play these bitches.
I think so.
Thank you for that. Anyway, that's
Have I set the tone?
Yeah, quite well. I didn't need to sleep later anyway, and this is only gonna get worse. But I suppose for my turn.
What about you?
I'm gonna start with something a bit more traditional, an actual horror game.
Oh, okay.
But don't worry, I have curveballs. Steve's not curveballs.
Okay.
So this is a story from my childhood, essentially. Of course, it's from my childhood. That's when everything scared me. And now, by extension, all of this stuff still scares me to this day. So when I was a kid, I think it was about 2001, so I was like 10. On my GameCube.
Oh wow!
On my Nintendo GameCube, we're going hardcore here.
That's old school, man.
Yeah. So my brothers and I, David and Killian, we would all love to play together the remake of Resident Evil 1.
Okay.
Which is a GameCube game originally, and now it's on fucking everything.
Yeah.
And I own it on everything because it is my favorite game ever.
Really?
By no exaggeration, I play that game through probably twice a year.
Really? Okay.
I adore it, and it never fails to scare the piss out of me.
Okay.
So
I've only dabbled in the remake. I'll be totally honest. Like, I must have only spent about an hour with it, and I couldn't play it. And that's not to say it's a bad game, but no way at all. I found it to be quite cumbersome sometimes.
The controls work against you; they don't work with you.
Yeah,
and it's
obviously like, sorry for cutting across you. The way like the controls, like as you said, work against you, kind of amplifies the tone of the game, that the environment is fighting against you.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's like obviously the puzzles can be convoluted at times. A lot of this carried over from the original game from 1990. 6, whatever.
Yeah.
Just the game getting remade after like only 5 years. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
So I was 10, and obviously my brothers were younger than me. I'm the eldest. Respect. So they were chicken shits, and I had to play the game. They wouldn't do it. And when we were kids, we would never get very far.
You were all in the same room at this time.
Oh yeah,
right?
no. So we'd all be huddled up around the TV in the
I
living
love
room after our parents had gone to bed when we were supposed to be asleep.
I love it.
Playing fucking Resident Evil. I was 10. They were younger. That's how bad this was. We really shouldn't have been doing this.
Yeah.
So you know the basic setup of Resident Evil. The characters show up at the mansion, the Spencer mansion. They go their separate ways, wander around. You have your first zombie reveal. Like I thought of a few moments from the game I thought would be good, but there's one part of it.
This is specifically in the remake.
It's not in the original game.
Okay.
Which anybody who's played both will probably know what I'm going to talk about now.
Okay.
So I would often play as Jill because she has
the lockpicks.
Yeah, she's the lockpicks, but she also has 2 extra inventory slots and starts with a gun. Chris just starts with a knife.
Dead handy.
Yeah. Fuck you, Chris.
Dead handy. Get it?
Yeah. So, you go in, you meet the first zombie. It's scary. If you're playing as Jill, you can run out of the room and Barry will kill it for you. And cool. And then it leaves. And I'm like, why? How did the zombie get back up? That's wrong. That's wrong. And that was it. I had considered putting the zombies reanimating further, so the crimson heads, where if you kill a zombie and you don't blow off its head or burn its body at an undisclosed point in the game, when you're walking through that same room again, the body's still there. And when you're a kid, you're used to video games like when you kill an enemy, the body disappears. Like, why is this still here? This should be gone. I beat it. But then they come back and they're faster and angrier and like claws and shit and like terrifying. That's not what it is. So after you've done a bit of exploring in the mansion, in the original game, in the main hall, if you go behind the main staircase, there's nothing really there. Maybe I think there might be an item in. I could be wrong. Okay. In the remake, there's a set of gates that lead further down into the depths of the mansion.
So this is like a completely new place that they made for the remake.
Whole new location for the remake.
Oh,
great, love it, great shit. That's how you do a remake. So, if you go up to the gates, you hear chains rattling, and like and you're like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. But you can't open the gate. Yeah, you can't open the gate at this point in time.
Okay.
And then later on, you're outside the mansion. You're going up kind of into the woods behind it, and you find a little cabin. And in this cabin, someone's lit a fire, like in the fireplace. So, who the fuck did that?
Yeah, it wasn't you.
No, exactly. You go further into the cabin. You find an item you're looking for. I think it's like a winch or something like that. And then you hear the door close that you just came through moments before. You're like, what the fuck is this?
Oh.
But then you walk a bit further and something cracks you on the head. You pass out and you wake up. And there is a monster called Lisa Trevor watching you. And she's pissed. She's like, oh, fucking get out of my house. I'm gonna kill you. So the first time you encounter Lisa, and we never got further than this when I was a kid. The first time you encounter Lisa Trevor, you might have the reaction like, oh, I got my shotgun. I got like possibly even a grenade launcher at this stage. Fuck it, I'm gonna take this bitch out. And you just unload into Lisa Trevor. Doesn't matter. Lisa can't die. Lisa keeps going. So you gotta run. And that again, that's not the specific moment. I'm building up to it.
Okay.
So after you've escaped Lisa, then you wind up in these kind of underground tunnels or whatever. And there's a section where you'll hear her before you see her in these tunnels. So it's like branching paths in the tunnels that kind of loop around. It's like kind of a circular room with little offshoot doors around it. One of the doors is locked and you require like an item that is timed to open it. So I can't remember the exact details, even though I play this game all the time. So the door is on a timer, if you don't get to it before the timer runs out, the door relocks and you have to set it again.
Oh, what a pain in the ass.
But Lisa Trevor is in these corridors hunting you down.
No.
So I was like, okay, you have to get from A to B, not knowing where she's going to be in these tunnels. Now you can kind of, having played the game so many times, you can kind of bait her one way and then just run around the other, but she still caught me off guard more than once. And that moment for me was just, because it's kind of, you see it more now with like the likes of, you know, Mr. X and like,
I was just about to say, yeah.
Technically speaking, she only does this for one very small section of the game, and arguably this came after the original Resident Evil 3 with Nemesis.
Okay.
That's kind of, they work that into the lore as well, as Lisa is like the original G virus subject,
the progenitor of what came after them.
Kinda, yeah, because her whole thing, her whole backstory, she's the daughter of George Trevor, who designed the mansion. And she was taken from him with her mother to be experimented on by Umbrella, and George was forced to work on the mansion, like all the traps and secrets and shit like that, to get his family back. And whatever way they experimented on Lisa, they essentially made her immortal. She can't die. Her mother dies, and they try and they kind of like, I think they get like somebody else to play her mother, and she doesn't like that, so she kills her, peels her face off, and wears it.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So like, if you get a close enough look at Lisa Trevor, you can see it's like she's wearing kind of like a Michael Myers style face over her face. And it's horrific. And even when you encounter her for an actual fight, you can kind of, I've never done this, I think you can shoot her off this kind of ledge, but what I do is, again, I often play as Jill because I'm a coward. I give Barry, because at that stage Barry, you find out, is a traitor. You take his gun off him, and he's got the big fuck off his big magnum. I have this.
Jill sandwich.
Yeah. So either you can give him the gun back and he'll help you fight Lisa Trevor while you kind of figure out the little puzzle to get out of the room, or you can keep the gun and you're like, cool, so you got a kick-ass magnum, but Barry dies.
Okay.
I give Barry the gun because I'm like, that's how I play games. I like to have somebody like backing me up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, it was that moment in that tunnel area where Lisa's just kind of not necessarily got you cornered, but there's not a lot you can. Yeah, she can't. You can't slow her down. You can't. You can escape, but you have to be smart about it. You have to be, quick-witted. And when I was a kid playing this, I was 10. I was like, what the fuck do I do? Like, I don't know. This thing wants me dead. And there's over both my shoulders, I had the other two like, what the fuck? What do you do?
Yeah, and I'm like, go here, do this.
Yeah. So that for me, because that was like, we had played like scary stuff before, but that was, I guess that was the point that kind of stopped us playing further for a while.
That is amazing. I'm amazing in the sense that, like, not only like I'm visualizing the way you're describing that, and even now, if I was to play it, I'd be like, I can't do this, But as a child playing it, that's just insane, man. That's insane. That is crazy. That's a good strong contender for your first entry into these moments.
Thank you kindly. What about you? What's next?
Kind of like yourself with that. I played this game when I was 10. I really shouldn't have.
I love when that happens.
But it was our generation,
Yeah. We're hardcore, man.
We're hardcore. Yeah. Nothing phases us now. But it was this moment, actually. This was the first thing I put down, and I said, I'm putting this is not going to get changed. And you and I are huge fans of this series, and we've discussed the games in depth, through text messages and things like that. This part for me, right, is from Metal Gear Solid 2, the second one. And so the game itself focuses a lot on social commentary, focuses a lot on what you see might not be the real thing, how you're fed often misinformation by people who control the media. There's so much meta stuff in this one entry in this long franchise. Like how Hideo Kojima did this, I like, and this was like 20 years ago, 19 years ago, 20 years ago. How he did this, I was mind blown. Now you're all throughout the game, you're playing as this new character by the name of Raiden, and this was a huge, I would say, talking point with a lot of fans, because the hero who you have been playing as in previous games is Solid Snake. He's like the guy. He's the badass wearing bandana. He smokes. He has that gruff voice. He's voiced by David Hayter. I mean, how cool could you get? He's modeled after Snake Plissken from Escape from New York, Escape from LA. You know, he's just a model badass lone soldier. And then the second game comes along, and in the main game, you're playing as this new character, but in the prologue, you're playing as Solid Snake. So the seeds are already being planted, ironically, in the plant episode of the Big Shell episode of Metal Gear Solid 2. But I'm specifically talking about this part where the guy who you're talking to on your codec is just called the Colonel. But previous players of the previous games are like, oh, it's Colonel Campbell. He's voiced by Paul Eiding, you know, but he never says his name. And Raiden never says his name, just calls him the Colonel. But there's a part when you're captured and you're loaded into this huge colossus thing called Arsenal Gear. And you're being interrogated by the main antagonist, Solidus Snake, which is another clone of the Les Enfants Terribles project. That Solid Snake and Liquid Snake, his brother, are part of three brothers. But you get out of this interrogation chamber with the help of a sleeper agent inside called Olga Gerlukovich. And you're completely naked. All your stuff is taken out. Right up until you get to this point, you must have about 4 assault rifles, a Stinger missile, a Nikita guided rocket launcher, a SOCOM pistol, an M9 tranquilizer, 3 sniper rifles at least, a bunch of claymores and a load of grenades. Like, you are kitted out. You are kitted out. But it's this part in the game where you're completely naked, your weapons are gone, and you go into where the main foyer is, and your codec would this kind of flash note. This flash will come on screen to say, press select to answer the codec. You don't have to if you don't want to, but all this time you have to listen to what's going on.
Yeah.
And the Colonel comes on and says, Raiden, turn the game console off right now. And Raiden says, what are you talking about? And the Colonel says, the mission's a failure, cut the power right now. And Raiden is like, what's wrong with you? The Colonel says, don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just as usual. And then your girlfriend on the other end comes on and says, you'll ruin your eyes if you play so close to the screen. And Raiden is still like, because Raiden is a character that you're controlling.
Yeah.
So he hasn't a clue what this guy is saying. But the Colonel is speaking to the player. Like, how long have you been playing this game? Like, it's a role-playing game as such. Turn the console off. And me being 10 years old, I turned the fucking console off.
Yeah, understandable, to be fair.
You know, like, I had never experienced anything like it, where the game is telling you, you failed. Like, the mission's a failure. You might as well cut the power right now. That's it, you're done. It was just that moment of, I was cold with fear.
Yeah.
Because you're traveling around trying to find your way where there's heavily armed guards who are hunting you down, that if you sneeze in the place, they know where you are.
Yeah,
you're
naked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you can't defend yourself. You've got no weapons. And then every like 2 or 3 minutes afterwards, the codec goes off, and he then sprout other nonsense like, I'm sorry, I made you pay for lunch the other day. It's just me and my wife are going through a divorce, and I have to pay for the settlement fees. And you as the player, you're like, I remember holding the controller like, what is actually going on here? It was so meta.
Oh, isn't there a thing he says where it's like you got abducted by aliens or something like that as well? And it's like,
yeah,
what are you talking about?
It's something along the lines of, he says, Raiden, something happened to me last Thursday when I was driving home from work. Yeah. I saw this glowing ball in the sky, this orange ball in the sky coming towards me. And when I came to, I was home again. What do you think happened to me? And Raiden is like, I don't, what? And the Colonel's like, fine, forget it. Forget I even said anything. but it was just that moment, that meta moment when I was legitimately, I was frozen. I stopped playing then. Like, I stopped playing right there. And it was only in later years that I really appreciated like just what was being conveyed there.
Yeah.
You know, it's genius. Just genius.
Totally. Like, I think Metal Gear has some great moments in that kind of style as well. Like Metal Gear Solid 1, Psycho Mantis.
Yeah.
Even, I think Metal Gear Solid 1 did a really good job putting the fear in. It's like, remember when you're on the lift and you're like, Otacon's like, what's the story? Why is the weight warning going off? You know, and you're like, get off, the stealth suits are gone. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
so
Otacon's profile comes right up to the screen.
That's
yeah,
you know, it's like, serious. Like,
look out, Snake. The guys who stole the prototypes are in there with you.
Yeah.
But it's the build up to the music. It's like,
yeah, it's a great conversation and everything. You're like, what is he talking about? What's going on? Like,
speaking
of great moments. Huh?
Yeah. Speaking on the music, when in Metal Gear Solid 2, when you're in this huge thing called Arsenal Gear, it's like a floating war engine, so to speak. All along the walls are prototypes of Metal Gear Ray, but the music in the background, it's almost like somebody is humming an off-tune kind of filter.
Yeah,
and it just adds that like the whole atmosphere is like you're cold, like you feel like when I was playing it was like I feel cold playing this.
Yeah,
like not only like metaphorically, but you can actually see steam condensation coming out of Raiden's mouth. Like, this badass soldier has just been he's been stripped, and then you have somebody who's been your ally sprouting this nonsense to you. It turns out that he's a part of the Patriots machine that a virus had gotten into from Otacon's sister, who is damaging his software. That's why it's sprouting this nonsense. And then it leads into one of the greatest pieces I think I've ever heard, when the Colonel contacts you right at the finale of the game, and he talks about social commentary. He talks about how humans will always be a plague, that the machines have been controlling everything.
Yeah,
everything. Like, you are in this system, the Solid Snake simulation, or it was the societal.
So I know the Solid Snake simulation and the societal something.
Yeah, it's the three S's that I can't.
Yeah, I can't remember the other one. I just remember Solid Snake simulation.
Something standpoint. It's the societal standpoint simulation or whatever it was. And you know, as going back onto it later years, like as I'm like, I would usually skip long codec calls because a lot of it is expositional bollocks.
Double tap triangle, just like fast forward that shit.
Exactly. Like, I want to get to the next part, not listen to two people have a conversation. But as I was listening to the Colonel talking about like what is really going on, I was like, what? You do not expect it at all. It's brilliant. It really is. It's brilliant.
Something I didn't really get at the time as well, because obviously this impacted me very much the same way. The fact that in the main sections of in the tanker section and the big shell section of the game, when you pause, like press start, it tells you the location of where you are. You're like strut C, shell A, or shell 1 or whatever. But when you're in that section of the game, you're in like
it's the colon, the
duodenum, the jejunum. It's like, oh no, it's like you've literally been swallowed.
Yeah.
By the simulation. It's something I never got when I was a kid, and it's like, like when you're adult, you're like, oh shit, like I'm really in it now.
Yeah.
I'm trapped. I have no way out of here except through this fucking sphincter.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of though? It's like the it reminds me of two things, right? It reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen Pinocchio, but Monstro the whale.
That put the fear in me as a kid. When
he swallows Pinocchio, or the other one is Moby Dick, you know, and like those two allegories were then later referenced in The Phantom Pain. But it's almost like you're being swallowed by the simulation. It's brilliant. Like, it's just, I've never experienced anything like that. But that had to be a point of like, I was frozen, like in fear. Like I was just like, this is too much. For a 10-year-old, this is too much. But even now, it's like, it puts the fear of God into me, because you just don't expect it at the time. But nowadays you are expecting it, and it still hits, you know, hits. But what about you? What's your second entry?
So again, the first one, actual horror game. This one, debatably, it has its moments. So my second moment / it's more than a moment, as opposed to kind of the overall atmosphere / feeling of the experience of the game, is The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. So let me regale you with another story. When I was a kid, my brother and I, we got our Nintendo 64, and we're like, oh man, let's play that Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time game. Everyone seems to love it. It's like the highest rated game made at the moment. Play through it. Fuck yeah, love this shit. Adventure. You're a little elf boy saving the world. Cool. It had its don't get me wrong, this game had a couple of moments. I was debatably going to put on, from Ocarina of Time, a creature called the Dead Hand.
I'd just like to interject. I've never played a Zelda game.
Yeah.
So
okay, so I'm
going to be lynched in the comments for this. I really am.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, you just have you get to experience all this shit for the first time now. So the Dead Hand, for context, you're playing as, Ocarina of Time involves time travel. So you play as Kid Link and Adult Link, or he's Adult Link. He's like 16.
Okay.
And adult Link sections take place in like a post-apocalypse kind of thing. Basically, you fucked up as a kid, and the world went to shit over the course of 7 years, and now you're dealing with the aftermath as an adult. So you time travel, you flip-flop between young Link and adult Link after a certain point in the game. So late into the adventure, young Link, you go down a well in a place called Kakariko Village. This is not the point. This is just a point I almost put on. So okay. you go down a well, and you walk into this room, and like there's real creepy ass music playing, and you're like, oh, what the fuck is this? And you walk in, and you see like 4 arms just kind of like sticking up out of the ground, like in a square shape. You're like, there's nothing else in the room, and the door's locked behind me. What do I do? So you go up to one of the hands, and it just grabs you by the throat.
Oh god.
And then this blobby creature comes up out of the ground, has these like little T-Rex arms and a huge like head with like an enormous mouth, and it just kind of starts shuffling over to you.
Oh Jesus.
It doesn't have legs, it's just like a blob. It's kind of like coming at you, and you know, one of its hands sticking out of the ground is holding you by the throat, and you're like, what the fuck? So eventually you can wriggle free from the hand, and you can run around, you fight it, but you can only damage it when its head is down. If you hit it, its head will like lurch back up.
Oh wow.
But as you move around the arena, the hands will try and grab you again. So you kind of have to constantly maneuver. Like, you have to stay close to the thing to hit it, but it'll hit you. If you move too far away, you're going to get grabbed, and it'll get you. So,
right, okay.
Terrifying stuff. Again, that was like 1997. We played it a couple of years after it came out, I think. Terrifying. Absolutely, like, pants-shitting terrifying. Wow. Not the moment. So the game,
not the moment that you're talking about.
That's not the moment. The game received a direct sequel, which is uncommon in The Legend of Zelda. It's much like Final Fantasy, where it's kind of like each game is its own
standalone.
Yeah, it's a new adventure, new mechanics, plays similar themes, but new ideas basically.
Okay.
A new interpretation of the characters and stuff like that.
So what was because I've never played a Zelda game.
Yeah.
So this was the Ocarina of Time, what was the direct sequel then?
Majora's Mask was
Majora's Mask.
I think it was released a year or 18 months after. They didn't have a lot of time to develop it. Yeah, because they basically like, Ocarina of Time did gangbusters. Let's make some money off this. And it was almost like they were like, how do we just not make the same game again with the same engine? So the game Ocarina ends with saving the world, traveling back to young Link time. I mean, like, right, world has been saved, but your friend, a little fairy, Navi, flies off. Majora's Mask starts with Link as a kid looking for Navi.
Okay.
He gets jumped in some forest by a kid called the Skull Kid, wearing Majora's Mask, and turns you into a little shrub boy. And you're like, oh, okay, cool, that's fine, whatever. Fuck me, right? He also steals your horse because he's a dickhead. Now, before I continue, there's many theories that Link technically dies here because he's fallen down like a huge hole, and that the entire game is essentially purgatory.
Oh.
The entire land is called Termina. And as you walk through the you get through the forest. You wind up in the basement of a clock tower, and the Happy Mask salesman, creepiest fucking character ever. He's like, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?"
That's what that line is from.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so he's like, "You met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" And you're like, "Yeah, well, duh. I'm a fucking plant man, boy."
Yeah, my horse is gone.
Yeah, fuck me.
Fuck me.
So he's like, "Listen, if you get my mask back, Majora's mask from the Skull Kid, then you know what? I'll help you. I'll fix you." And you're like, "Okay, cool." And he's like, "Oh, but I only have like 3 days, so you want to hurry." And that's like, there's an in-game actual timer counting down the 3-day clock. And you're like, "Oh, okay, cool." So then you walk out the doors of the clock tower, and you look up, and in the sky is the moon. The moon's very big. The moon also has a big face. The moon's looking at you.
What?
Looking down. Like,
what?
I'm not even joking. So it's looking down at you. And every in-game, like 12 hours or so, I think, which is only, I think, half an hour of real time.
Okay.
It moves closer.
Oh God.
It's because the moon is falling, which is the basic premise of like, you have 3 in-game days to stop the moon from falling. And each day that passes, obviously the moon is closer. So it's big fucking moon face is bigger and is staring you out of it the whole way through the game. And it's a permanent presence. No matter where you go in the main land, you can still see it kind of on its way down.
Yeah.
And the great thing as well is that each day the music changes slightly.
Okay.
Like in the main town, in Clocktown. So, like the first day it's like real cheerful. Everyone's kind of like, people are saying the moon's gonna fall. It's fucking nothing. It's just conspiracy theories and shit. Second day, some people are kind of a bit more panicky. The music's slightly more frantic. They're kind of like, oh man, it seems to be getting bigger. That ain't right. And then day 3, people have just lost it. Like, people run around the town, because everyone has their own schedule in the game as well, which is great. And again, much like Ocarina of Time, you have time travel. So if you reach the end of the 3 days and you haven't managed to save the world yet, you can revert back to the first day, but you lose all your progress on certain things.
Oh.
So that's the fear of that game, is there's this ever looming threat. While you have control over time, there are consequences to using that time travel, but also benefits. Like,
Yeah.
you know a character is going to be in a certain location on a certain day. If you can get there before then, preempts.
Oh, wow.
So, but it's generally speaking, it's just the moon's presence lingering overhead,
it's following you everywhere.
Yeah, it's pure dread, because the
Can't
entire
get away
world.
from it.
Yeah, exactly. It follows you everywhere. The music it really enhances it. Eventually, the final boss takes place inside the moon's mouth.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so you get even closer. Fuck you.
That is insane.
Yeah, so it's just really well done, really tense. Stuck with me as a child. Something fierce. Yeah, more so than Ocarina of Time's scary moments did.
Such a great concept, though, isn't it?
It's brilliant.
It really is. It's such a great concept. Yeah, this is coming from somebody who's never played a Zelda game ever. Yeah. So just hearing you talk about it, it's like, whoa! I can totally see why you'd include that on your list.
Yeah.
Because when you look up at the moon, it's this beautiful beacon of hope and light in the sky. It guides wayward travelers, and usually it can be linked back to that whole romantic thing, which is like, I'll meet you at the moon and things like that. In this game, the moon is going to swallow you.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
You actually, as well, if the time runs out, you witness the end of the world. The moon crashes, everything goes up in flames, everyone dies, game over.
That is grim.
Yeah,
that is grim.
And like, this is arguably like Zelda. Like, that's like a kid's game.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
That is grim, man. That is grim.
Love it. You're up.
This one is actually again, kind of going back to a franchise that both you and I really, really like. There's a great build up to it. So it's from The Witcher 3.
Ooh.
And now the game itself, there's so much in it. There's different regions you travel to in as your travels as the Lone Witcher Geralt of Rivia, the White Wolf. But there's this great build up, and honestly, this is probably the best part in the whole game for me, anyway. Because there's a lot of kind of fetchy quests. There's a lot of escort missions and things like that. Much more later. Like fuck Novigrad. I hate that entire place. Any mission that takes place in Novigrad, I fuck it. That
Yeah.
I swear to God, it was like Dragon Age 2, condensing everything to one city and just dropping, quests here and there. I absolutely detested that part of the game. Fight me on a mountainside, I'll still scream it. But there's this part where, so essentially the premise is, for people who haven't played The Witcher 3, first of all, what's wrong with you? Second of all, the whole premise is you're searching for your adopted daughter, Ciri, and she has been sighted around Novigrad, where you're traveling to find her. You come across this guy called the Bloody Baron, and he's this self-imposed ruler of a particular area around Velen, and he says, "I know where Ciri is, but you have to help me find my wife and daughter, because they've also gone missing." Now it turns out that he was beating his wife.
Yeah.
When he was drunk, he beat her so badly that she miscarried, and his daughter, as a massive fuck you to him, joins the Church of the Eternal Fire. So there's a whole family dilemma happening, all while you're trying to find your own adopted daughter.
Yeah.
And eventually you get tipped off that Cirilla was last seen in a place called Crookback Bog. Now, this fucked me up so badly, right? So you've been told that there is an orphanage in this place in Crookback Bog, and the matron of the orphanage actually turns out to be the Baron's wife. But there's these three spectral beings there, and they're simply known as Crones. They're the witches of the woods. And boy, let me tell you, when you see them, because all you hear is whispers about who they are, that they, like, villagers nearby lead their children down the trail of treats to go to where the bog is, and the witches abduct them to put them into a stew.
Yeah.
So the village is protected from evil spirits and leshens and things like that. And when you meet them, though, they're so disfigured, and they're taunting Geralt like, "Do you desire us? Like, I'd be the best you'd ever have, but I'd be the last you'll ever have." They're taunting him, and like, they're so overly sexualized.
Yeah.
Like, but it's like, this is actually disgusting, But what really got me about that scene is, and I think I've spoken to you a few times about it, the genius of having music in a video game and how it sets the tone in the background of when these three witches are speaking to you. It's this subtly out of key viola, and it's like, like, they keep, like, one of the main mouthpiece of the actual group, the Weavest or something, I think her name is, just bees coming out of her eyes and things like that. And it's just like, now I know, like, the whole world of The Witcher is very much revolves around like magnificent mystical creatures like trolls and goblins and dragons, and like, you can just take them out with your sword. But when you're face to face with these, it's like, you guys are older than time itself, and they know it. They're like, "You can't do anything to us."
Yeah.
But it's how their bodies are, like, they're kind of moving and contorting in a way that when one of them is speaking to you, like, she's almost like she's trying to scratch at Geralt. And this game only came out like in 2016, maybe 2016, 15, 17, something. So it's relatively still fresh.
Yeah.
But even I wanted to get as much dialogue out of them as possible.
Yeah.
But it was just that moment of like, what do I say to these people? Because they know where Ciri is, but they're taunting me while they're like, anytime you see her, she'll be a mirage. You'll never be able to stop what's going to happen. And it goes on later in the game that you can actually confront them again. You can fight them as many bosses, depending on what, I think there's like 20 different endings you can get in the game, depending on what you do. So you could make the point that the witches did survive or they died, but it was just that one encounter. It's such a long build up,
Yeah.
and you confront them, and it's like, I'm actually pretty disgusted, and I'm actually pretty scared on what to do here. So I had to include that into the list. I really did. And Geralt himself is like, he's like, you know, it's how he responds to them. He's like, I better do this really carefully, because in a click of their fingers, they could maul me straight away, and I'd be powerless to stop it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's in there anyway. It's that fucking out of tune viola that I can still hear. Oh my god. Ooh. Yeah. What about you? What's next?
So it's not 100% like a horror game.
Okay.
But there's just a section of Bioshock that never failed to just kind of.
Would you kindly take that crowbar and get that murdering bastard Andrew Ryan? What Bioshock is it?
OG Bioshock, original.
OG,
like you and Rapture.
Oh.
And there's a few moments early on in the game, especially where they kind of lean into the horror stylings, like, you know, when you go down in the bathysphere, and one of the splicers like carves it up when you're trapped inside it, and you're like, oh, I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
But there was, and I think the game does this amazing job of kind of just building tension and atmosphere throughout.
So claustrophobic, isn't it?
Yeah, and even really like the optional fight with the big daddies, it's like, that's a decision. Do I choose to put myself in that life or death situation kind of thing? I think there's a lot of moments like that in the game. You know, when you meet the plastic surgeon in the labs, and you know,
he's obsessed with carving up people to create the perfect piece of art, I think he's quoted as saying.
Yeah, and like you get to the end of his section, and you know, you like the lights turn off, and like a fog fills the room, and you turn around, and he's there, and it's like, ah.
Yeah.
But there's a part of it that kind of stuck with me. It's quite early on. You wind up in this room, kind of surrounded by glass, and you're trying to get through this door. The door is locked, and Andrew Ryan comes up on a screen behind you.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah, you remember?
I remember. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, listen, dude, I'm just trying to go through this door right now. And he's like, well, I'm afraid this is where your time's at an end. You're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then you hear the splicers kind of start crawling, like clawing at the wall and the windows, trying to get in. You're like, I can't fucking go anywhere.
Yeah.
And you're still like fairly lightly equipped at this stage. Like, oh yeah, you might have a shotgun and the Tommy gun or whatever, but it's like, I think you've 1 or 2 plasmids.
I think low on supplies. I think you've got the Inferno and the I think the telekinesis one or the shock one might be.
Yeah. It's like you could defend yourself for a while.
You're gonna run out of ammo really quickly here.
It's because the vibe it's setting up is that, you know, listen, you're surrounded. They are here for you. And it's a very brief moment in the game, but it cements like Andrew Ryan's control.
He's watching everything you're doing.
Yeah, and he's like steering things your direction. He's like, I'm not letting you get any further. And it's like, listen, Andrew, shut the fuck up, right? You're voiced by the guy who was the principal in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You're a little weed.
What?
Yeah, Principal Snyder from Buffy the Vampire Slayer was Andrew Ryan. Go figure.
No way.
Yeah. It's like they're 2 very different characters.
Oh my god.
One's a little weasel and one is like, I own all things in Rapture. I am basically God down here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's brief. It's not even, because like you get out of the situation, you don't really wind up fighting any of these particular splicers. You know, the door opens, you get through the door, I think somebody lets you out. But it's just that like maybe 2 minutes of just like, oh shit, this is like the end of the line. Like
this is the real thing happening.
Yeah, like it's a video game, you know you're gonna get out, but it does such a good job of immersing you into that moment that you feel like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go down swinging.
Yeah,
I love that. I think that's a real strength of the first game, particularly. And a small moment, but stuck with me. So I want to add that to my list.
And there is a lot of other small little moments in that game as well. Like, and I think one of the smallest yet strongest moments is it happens like that only for about 2 or 3 minutes. But it's when you find the "Would you kindly" on the wall.
Oh.
It's only you enter for like 2 minutes, and then you leave, and that's it.
Yeah.
But then it's like stuff is kind of starting to make sense a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I find that like it's a testament, sorry, to the writers and the game developers at the time. It's like, how do they manage this stuff? Like, we've talked about it in depth on the Bioshock video that we actually did.
Yeah.
A subtle plug there to go check it out for people who enjoy the videos on the save point. But no, that's actually a really, really good moment, I must say. Which kind of this. All right, so my next moment, right, happens in it's not really like a horror game. It's set in a horrific place.
Okay.
Now the game borrows a lot on that kind of Lovecraftian mythos. And the place, the game that I'm talking about is Bloodborne, which was so good, so like probably one of the best games I've ever played. Developed and produced by From Software. But just it's absolutely incredible. But there's a specific moment in Bloodborne that I'm talking about. Now, as I said, it's set in this kind of gothic kind of city. The main hub area, I suppose, is called Yarnum, which is very gothic Victorian. Lots of chimneys, lots of smoke, set in that kind of 1800s kind of Art Deco, I think it's called. So you know immediately like what you're in for when you're in this area. But it's a part of the game where you end up in a place called Bergenworth, which is the main school of blood administration.
Yeah.
Where these scholars had found an eldritch sleeping old lord, or old one as they call it, drained its blood and started injecting it into the students, which led to the scourge, which led to the blight, which led to people going mad with this blood inside them.
Yeah.
But it's a part where you fight this giant spider, right? And it's called the vacuous spider Rom. And anyway, you beat it anyway, and you watch this huge moon rise, and then you wake up and you're back in Yarnum, but you're in this place called the Unseen Village / Yahar'gul, which is the canonical name of the place. So you wake up and you're in this new area that's kind of been hidden in plain sight. But what frightened the life out of me, and I mean this, in the background, all along the buildings, you can see these amygdala type Cthulhu monsters just looking down at all the helpless ants that are the citizens of Yarnum. And there's a part in the game actually where you can see one of them very subtly if your insight is at a high level. It's kind of like your madness radar. But now that the blood moon has risen, the citizens have gone completely insane. NPCs that you've met in the game who were once friendly to you will attack you on sight. It's like everything is now turned against you. The city that you have been in, it's just been waiting for the switch to go off.
Yeah,
and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. The atmosphere is just incredibly well done in that game. It's extremely subtle. Yeah, it's extremely subtle. Like you could just, like, when you wake up in back in Yarnum, you go, oh yeah, we'll just keep on continue the game. But if you take the time to see this, like what you were saying in Zelda, this moon is watching you. Yeah, and everybody goes nuts, and it's so well done, I must say.
I remember it. It struck with me so well, and I think a great kind of like a micro part of that whole thing is, the Uden Chapel, which is kind of like in Yarnum. It's like your central little place where you can kind of go off to a bunch of different locations
and send people back there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's supposed to be like a safe haven.
Yeah.
But you don't realize, at least not on your first playthrough, is that the whole time there's actually been one of these amygdalas hanging off the side of the building.
Yeah.
If you go out to the cemetery before Yahar'gul, and you find like an item, I was like, hey, there's an item over there, I'm gonna pick that up. Something grabs you, you can't see, and like fucking kills you, and you're like, what the hell?
You just briefly see a hand grabbing you,
and like a vortexy kind of effect. You're like, what the shit's going on? But then after Yahar'gul, if you go back and you just look up outside, you're like, oh, that's been there the whole goddamn time.
The whole time. It's incredibly well done and extremely subtle. Yeah. But like when you wake up in Yahar'gul and you see these beasts hanging off the side of these buildings, watching everything, you
realize how small you are.
So insignificantly small in this wider thing that's going on.
The best part for me was that most of them don't even like acknowledge you. Like the odd one will attack, it'll attack from range, and there's one that's actually a boss fight. But like I'd say like 80-90% of these guys are just like, no, we're just gonna observe.
You can actually not crawl. Sorry, you can walk underneath one of them.
Yeah,
and they're just staring at you, and it's like they're not even bothering with you, like because you're not even on their radar right now. There's a greater reason why they're there.
Yeah, you're a speck to them. Like it's just like on your way.
Literally, they're just see you later. We're just gonna keep an eye on what's really going on here.
And then the next one is like, no, actually, fuck you, giant laser beam.
Literally, that's what it is. They are desperately powerful. Powerful.
They will
mess
you up.
Yeah, I just thought I'd have to include that guy in there.
Too right. And thank you for the nightmares.
Well, you're not sleeping anyway after Fable.
No, man. Like, yeah, that's been solidified now. I'm sleeping with the lights on. Gonna play some cheery, friendly music tonight.
Stay away from the music boxes.
Okay. Next one for me. Back to traditional horror. Alien Isolation.
Yes.
That's
on my list.
Oh, is it? Yeah. I have one moment, and it's a great moment because it technically may not happen to everyone.
Okay.
So I got the game back when it came out, but I didn't have a PS4 because I was a cheap asshole, and I got it on the Xbox 360.
Oh, okay. Was it out for the 360? Well, it must have been you played it.
Yeah. No, I got the secret. Like, nobody else had it on the Xbox. No, I remember buying it on the 360 because I can't afford it like a PS4 and Xbox One, so I'm gonna get it on the 360 and play it there because I need to play this game.
Yeah.
And I did, and I was like, okay, cool, really, really digging this. Like, the atmosphere is great, the style, the whole aesthetic. It's a permanent fixture. It's a permanent fixture on my PS4 now. Because again, I love to go back and play it because it's just it's like insanely long though. But there was a part when I was playing it, and you know the way it's a good while before you actually like encounter the alien proper.
It's in the it's like almost like a hospital style part of the game.
Yeah, that's your first like proper run in with it.
Yeah.
I don't know how this happened. I ran into it before then. I swear to God. Okay, so
I know that you do semi run into it with that bald dude Axel.
Yeah, and
when he gets impaled,
he dies.
But
and there's another section. There's a section after that before the hospital where like you're in a room and it like comes down and like you're hiding under a desk or whatever, but you're not in control for that and you kind of just run away. But yeah, the hospital, the corridors is like your first true encounter.
Okay.
With the alien. Before then, somehow I don't know how this happened. I don't know, maybe the game broke, but it scared the piss out of me.
This is new information for me.
Yeah, there you go, right? So
I'm ready.
I was playing, and you know the tram station, which you use to kind of get to various locations throughout the...
You go from one place to the other, but because the Sevastopol station is so huge, you need to use these tram stations and exploit them. But yes...
Most like the other games, just because it's kind of like a hub area that you use to get around the greater locations of the game. So I had been traveling from one to another, as you do, and then I was kind of like, right, bit of peace here. I'm gonna head up to these stairs that I haven't been to yet, and I was just like, nobody's here, so I just started sprinting, and then I just heard like a vent like smash open, like fuck, and then the alien just fucking sprinted down the stairs and killed me, like that. I was like, what the hell? I haven't even seen you yet. Like, just out of nowhere, this thing shows up and just bodies me, and I was shocked. Because I hadn't encountered it yet, and I was like, is this meant to be the first time I encounter you? Are you meant to kill me? Is this like the intro of the alien? And then I replayed, and the alien wasn't there.
Oh wow!
It was. I got back to that same location after loading my save.
You're almost waiting for it then, aren't you?
I was. How do I get past this thing? And then it just wasn't there. I thought to myself, like, did I do something wrong? Did I come to a location?
Spook like.
Yeah. Just like out of sequence, terrifying. Maybe it was meant to be there, and I had missed it on other playthroughs. I don't know, but this was the first time I had played the game, and that happened, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the experience for me, because it was like, it was like, is this gonna happen? Is this just gonna happen like often? Am I gonna have to deal with this like regularly? Am I gonna shit myself every 15 minutes? And it was great. It was so good. Because it sets up that expectation of this thing can come for you anytime.
Yeah.
You are not safe. You have
Yeah.
to be smart. And like that's kind of a running theme with a couple of my points is, you know, the thing that will find you and kill you. And I love that. It's kind of a mechanic in games I've been really enjoying as of late, like Mr. X and Nemesis, and like those kinds of things where something is like Metroid, the Emmys in the new Metroid Dread that would persistently chase you down. That's
You're
a
being
thing.
hunted even though you technically are the hunter.
Yeah, like you're literally in Metroid, you're a bounty hunter. It's in your name. But fuck you, this thing will kill you. And yeah, I love that. Alien did it really well. Because I believe it had like an AI. It has like 2 AIs.
Yeah.
One knows where you are and one kind of misdirects it slightly, something to that effect.
It's something like that. From the way I understand it, is one AI knows where you are and the other AI is programming it not to go at you straight away.
Yeah, that's it.
It's something like that.
So you have to be smart because it will find you if you're not smart. And even another experience in the same playthrough in the hospital-y area. I was going through the location and I heard some other people. I was like, oh shit. So I hid under one of the little gurneys.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. I'll just wait until they pass me by. So they start walking past. And then the alien showed up.
And massacres them, right?
Killed them all. I'm like, oh, damn. Then I managed to escape, but I got caught by the alien killed later. Reload before this. I'm going through. Those other people aren't there, but the alien is. I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm really fucked. Then another time I went through, they were there, and I was like, okay, I'm going to use these guys. So I threw out like a noisemaker, which attracted the alien, and it killed them while I ran off like a little bitch. And that's something I think the game did really well. But that one moment, as I said, where it completely caught me off guard, caught me with my pants down. It was just
brilliant. Completely unintentional as well, by the sounds of it.
Oh, love it.
I actually had Alien Isolation on my list here, but I can I'm going to substitute it for another one. But just making the point, on Alien Isolation, what I had on my list was, now granted, the alien, actually the xenomorph, although it is a persistent threat, a lot of the time I felt was like, would you just get the fuck out of my way?
You just like flamethrower. Okay, come on, right.
I'm so done with you. Just get out of my way. But there's a part in that game, just before I get onto the substituted part of this, when you go down into Sevastopol, into the basement part where the reactor is, there's xenomorphs everywhere.
Yeah, it's all gooed up and
gooey, and the walls are leaking. But what fucks me up, and this is even with the Alien movies, the xenomorph doesn't bother me because I can see it. Yeah. Doesn't bother me. Does not bother me. I have a fear of those fucking face huggers.
Yeah.
I hate them. I hate them. And this is what happened to me when I was in that the reactor level. I'd be kind of slouching along, like peeking out from the corners and seeing, okay, I know there's a xenomorph that way and there's one over there. I need to get ahead of them though. Okay, just be slowly, and then out of nowhere this thing will just jump up at you.
Yeah. Like, what? Where'd you come from? I didn't hear you. The motion detector didn't pick you up.
I'm pretty sure at one stage there was a controller-shaped hole in one of the walls here. I just it oh god, it bothered me so much. But good shout on the Alien on Alien there. So the part that I'm going to substitute for Alien is actually one I had in the pipeline just in case something like this happened. And it's a game called Hellblade. Senna was sacrificed by, I think are they Ninja Theory who do it? Yeah, Ninja Theory.
Yeah, Ninja Theory.
Right. Now the game is centered basically around this young Celtic warrior. Her name is Senua. Her entire village had been raided by Vikings, or the Men of the North as they're called. Senua wasn't in her village at this time, but she comes back and finds her husband/lover turned into a blood eagle, which is where it's a method of execution that the Vikings did, where they would cut along somebody's spine, take their lungs out and spread them out so they look like wings and hang them so everybody could see.
Pleasant. So,
very pleasant. But Senua comes back to her village, sees this happen, and she takes her lover's head off and puts it in a pouch. And travels to this new this land of the land of the Nords in order to make a barter with one of the goddesses to get Dillion's soul back. But it actually happens quite early on in the game itself, where you are tasked with taking down 2 mini bosses before you can progress into the greater area of this game. They're 2 Nordic gods, One of them, his name is I think it's Sutir, Sutor, who is the god of fire.
Okay.
And the other one is called Valravn, which is the god of illusion. And you have to kill two of these off. But the one I'm specifically talking about here, where I was frozen literally with, I'm not playing this. All throughout the game, Senua suffers with this psychosis that she has. It's a mental health thing that she has.
Yeah.
And it actually says in the beginning of the game, before you boot it up, if you do have a trigger towards this maybe not be the game for you.
Yeah.
It also says that if you were willing to experience this, wear headphones, because there's voices that echo in Senua's head.
Binaural sound, I think they described it as, wasn't it? It's
Yeah.
it's like 360 degree
You
sound.
hear it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And it happens as a pretty cool gameplay mechanic is when you're fighting enemies, a voice will say dodge, or a voice will say you have to block it now, you're going to die. It's so if you listen to these binaural voices, they can help you out. But the part that I'm specifically talking about is when you go after Valravn. Now, this thing, right? It's this cloaked figure with the skull of like a bison, almost like that long. Is it a bison that I'm thinking of? Maybe a deer. It's a long kind of snout on it. The antlers, that like the image of what the traditional Grim Reaper would be. But you're in this vast open forest area, and one of the voices in your head says, Senua, listen, you have to listen. And in the background, you can hear this throat singing happening, and it's Valravn humming like, oh, that's guiding you the whole way. But you find him almost in optical illusions.
Yeah.
And he's almost kind of like wrapped himself up in these vines, and he just kind of appears out of nowhere. So when you go to attack him, he'll disappear, and then you'll end up in a completely different part of the map.
Okay.
But because he's the god of illusion, if you have to travel up a set of stairs to get to a part in a small tower, when you go over to those stairs, they'll disappear. And enemies will just jump out at you out of nowhere. Like, so he's toying with you all throughout this part. But it's when he's humming that it's almost like the Psycho Mantis dirge going on in the background, where it's like, what's right about this? Is there anything about this that's right? So that was a moment for me. It's completely very, very short. It's such a short encounter, but the fact that you can hear him before you see him, and even when you do see him, is it really him? So I really like that kind of encounter. It's much more psychological. It's completely subtle a lot of the time, because you could look and see him and walk off, and then be like, shit, I have to go over and attack that part of him. I have to attack this optical illusion, and he's gone. So he's playing this cat and mouse game. He's trying to drive her nuts.
Yeah.
And she starts questioning if she's doing the right thing. Like, is she on this crusade or conquest to bring back the spirit of her lover? Is she doing the right thing, or should she let him rest? So while you're trying to find this god of illusion, you're questioning yourself as well, as to should this be the right thing to do. It's very, very well done, I must say.
I do love when games do that, where they make you question your own perception of the world. It's
very well done. It's very well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of those moments in gaming where I put the controller aside, and I was like, no, I have to figure out what's right and what's wrong about this place, because 90% of what I'm seeing here is not the right thing.
Yeah.
I have to find out where he is. And even when you go trying to find the source of that throat singing, immediately when you get to it, he disappears. So I really enjoy little things like that. Those little subtle things going on in the background. I really
definitely. Oh, geez, I'm getting
brilliant.
Flesh is crawling right now.
Brilliant. I'll link it into the video so you can hear what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. It really is.
That's great.
What you got for me?
Oh geez, this is like the second last one. Jeez.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we've done 4. That was your 5th, 4th,
yeah,
5th. Yeah, sweet.
Brilliant.
Oh my god, time flies when you're having fun. Right. So, second last one, not a horror game. Owen, Joker. You ever played a game called Mass Effect?
My only problem with Mass Effect is it's not Hollow Knight.
Oh man, if only Mass Effect was Hollow Knight.
Of course, yes, of course.
Yeah.
But there's so many moments. There's so many moments in Mass Effect.
Yeah, I had considered briefly the Asari Reapers from Mass Effect 3.
Oh, the banshees, yeah.
Yeah, the banshees, because the
Scream, the screech, yeah. You hear them before you see them.
They're also like the most dangerous like ground forces you'll come up against, I believe, because they can one shot you.
Yeah.
If they get close.
Yeah. And they can teleport as well, I believe, can't they?
Yeah, they kind of like phase shift kind of thing across the battlefield. But I decided not with them to go with them.
I think I might know what you think. What
you probably do. Harkening back to Mass Effect 1.
I'm completely wrong here.
Oh. I think it's on the planet of not Ilos. It's where the Krogan experiments were going on, where Saren and his Geth were trying to cure the genophage.
Oh, Vermeer.
You're on the planet of Vermeer, and up to this point of the game, it's been fairly like, hey, this guy, he's teamed up with these like mechanoid alien things, and they want to take over the galaxy. Oh, standard shit.
Yeah.
And you get into this room.
Fall of the hero, basically.
Yeah. He used to be a good guy.
Classic.
And then you get in to this room, and you find out some information, and then suddenly a hologram pops up, big red hologram, and you're talking. Yeah, Shepard. You're talking to the one and only Sovereign, a Reaper, a creature of unfathomable age, and just that whole conversation just put the goddamn fear into me, because it's much like what you said with Bloodborne, where you realize you're up against something far beyond your normal comprehension. And you're talking, the difference is you have a conversation with this one. Like, you're talking to it, asking it questions. And it'll give you some answers, but mostly it's basically saying to you, you don't know what you're up against.
The extermination of your species it's like irreversible. It's going to happen.
You don't realize how many times we've done this before. And it's like, that's one of them. You're talking to Sovereign. And the fact that it just puts that fear into you, even though you're like, well, listen, I've been taking down your cronies left, right, and center. And it's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I am one of many, thousands, possibly millions. And this is what we do. We harvest and we move on, and we'll come back in 50,000 years. We're off in deep space.
Yeah.
And just the music and the voice and like the visuals, like Mass Effect 1 had very static animations and everything. Obviously, they were restricted by budget.
Yeah.
But it still managed to get across this amazing sense of dread.
Yeah.
That you're talking to this creature that is eons older than you, and has seen and experienced things you could never hope to comprehend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sets the tone so well for the rest of the game and the rest of the franchise that I had to talk about it.
Yeah, rightly so.
I'm interested to see what you thought I meant when I said Mass Effect.
I actually have Mass Effect as one of them.
Oh.
And it was one in the reserves. But my one was Project Overlord.
Oh.
That was I like Mass Effect isn't shy from touching away from very dark subject matters like the genophage,
even like body horror, that kind of stuff. Like,
like Cerberus themselves experimenting on children and things like that. But Project Overlord was one of them that was really I had it in the pipeline, where it was basically this Cerberus scientist, voiced beautifully by our good friend Mr. Simon Templeman.
Legend.
He notices that his brother can mimic the voicing of the Geth, which are like the Reaper's cronies, because they're indoctrinated or reprogrammed to follow the old code of the Reapers. So he can like click his tongue and mimic the Reapers or mimic the Geth. But David Archer is the scientist's name, I think, or is it David Archer? Yeah.
You're right.
He traps his brother in this like kind of what would you even call it? Like, it's like this kind of torture device.
Yeah.
And there's all these wires being pulled and pipes and everything, and his eyes are forced open, and it's
grotesque.
Yeah, it's really like, and it was kind of like a moment of like, this is fucking horrifying, and then it's like, this is actually sad.
I remember when you go talk to him, and like a tear It's just kind of like, please make it stop.
Yeah, stop. Please make the noise stop.
Yeah, make the noise. Oh,
yeah, and
powerful.
it actually continues on into the third game if you choose to bring your save over from the previous game. If you chose to either save David, or if you chose to send him back to service, you can meet him in Griffin Academy, and he says to you, Commander Shepard, you made the voices stop. And the music actually plays from that interaction, which I thought was a really nice little tie-in to happen. But going back on what you said about the Reapers, it's you're just after triggering something here. Like all throughout the first game, like you're told about them, but you don't ever see them. And in that conversation with Sovereign and Vermeer, and this is well into like the second half of the game, like he's telling you it's game over. Like this, that you can't stop this. You of all people cannot stop this.
Yeah. What makes you so different from the countless of those I killed?
But isn't it the reveal of Sovereign then that happens, where it's like, oh, he is actually not talking cheap here. He is a big boy.
Oh yeah. Which the thing is, you don't even realize you had seen Sovereign. Yeah. On the first planet on Eden Prime.
Yeah. But you thought it was a ship.
Yeah, you're like, oh man, it's a big ass ship. And then it's like, no, actually, no, that was the boss.
That was the guy. Yeah.
And then of course when you're running up the side of the Citadel to the final battle, and he's just there like moving his arm leg things, crashing into it, you feel it shake,
blasting off blasting off all the other spaceships in this desperate attempt to save the Citadel. It's brilliant.
And the fact that it took the combined military strength of the entire Citadel fleet and the Human Alliance to even dent the fucker is like, oh man, love it, so good. Like
you were told right then and there, like this is a serious thing that's happening. It's brilliant. And which leads me to my last part. I had to include this. I knew this was going to be the last one that I was going to mention. I haven't been this terrified in a long time.
Ooh.
And right, so the company themselves have kind of gone down a very questionable route in terms of their storytelling, in terms of their characters. I don't understand how anybody can punch through a boulder. Who am I to defy logic when you're Chris Redfield with Popeye arms? However, they did like a kind of new take on the story.
Yeah.
And you're not playing as Chris, you're not playing as Leon, you're not playing as any of the OGs. It's a new character called Ethan Winters.
I think I know what this is already. I think I know exactly what you're going to talk about.
Right. So the Resident Evil 8 kind of is a somewhat sequel to the 7th game. And you are like every male protagonist who has a daughter, he's looking for his daughter.
Yeah.
They all wear the same color jacket, by the way. That's how you know somebody. Yeah. Get the same haircut and everything.
Yeah.
So you end up in this village, which the game is aptly named after. And you are told by probably your only ally in the game, apart from Chris, questionably Chris. He's a guy by the name of the Merchant, and he knows more than what he's letting on. He knows exactly who you are. He knows exactly what you have to do. You're essentially looking for your daughter who has been crystallized and broken up into pieces, and you have to re-piece her together. Really dark.
Yeah.
Now there's this part where you go to one of the main boss's areas, and it's this cabin of sorts, a wooden mansion beside a waterfall overlooking the village. So she is looking down on this, and it's very picturesque, it's very beautiful. Looks like you could walk into it looks like a postcard.
Yeah.
Come to the village, and you go into this place, and the first thing that strikes you, because up until then everything had been very bombastic, and you just met Lady Dimitrescu and her vampire daughters, and everything was guns everywhere and explosions and blood drinking and big boobs and all that great stuff, you know. But you go,
it was almost a rehash of 2 as well with Mr. X, with Lady Dimitrescu. Yeah,
because she's stalking you as well.
Yeah, same thing, which is
same thing, which is, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
But this place you go to, and what was her name again? Donna Trek.
Beneviento.
Beneviento, that's it.
Donna Beneviento.
That's the one. She's this ventriloquist who has this doll with her, right? But even when you go into as you're walking up into the place, you're walking through this. It's like a cobbled pathway with trees looming down, and there's flowers around, and they're exuding this kind of mist. And Ethan breathes it in, and he's kind of having a hallucination. He sees his wife Mia, telling her that she's sorry for lying to him. All this kind of thing. But you go into this mansion itself, and the first thing that greets you is nothing. It's silent when you go in there. Now, when you get items in the game, this kind of like this sound will trigger off like bam, you know, if you pick up an item, bam. But in this place, when you pick up an item, it's louder because there's no music, and it's louder because it's silent. So immediately it's like shit. You know, you can hear a clock ticking in the background really loudly. You go down into the basement and you can find a mannequin there that is shaped to look like Mia. So already there's a psychological thing going on here.
Yeah.
And it's a puzzle part of the game where you have to kind of, you know, open parts of the mannequin to put little tokens in, which locks a limb in place. You kind of have to re-limb the thing to lie straight.
Yeah.
There's this part when you go into the basement area, what must be, and it immediately reminded me of PT.
Yeah.
Just this, you can hear something in the background, and it's a baby cooing. But as you look down, it almost looks like an umbilical cord trail. Now, a baby cooing and laugh should be like the most precious, beautiful sound ever.
Innocent.
Innocent.
Pure innocence.
But when this fucking thing comes into view, it is this grotesque, mangled, gigantic baby laughing at you, and it's chasing you. And I remember at one stage I actually stopped playing. I put the controller down and I immediately got on the phone to you, and I sent you a voice message, and I said, what the hell am I looking at here? I have never, like, it takes a lot to push me like that.
Yeah.
But I was petrified.
I remember I had messaged you after I'd finished that bit, and I'd said, let me know when you get to House Beneviento.
Because I thought, exactly, like when you said, let me know when you get there, when I saw the puppet thing, I was like, oh shit, this is it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to start contorting at me, you know?
And that kind of does, like, you know, the little dolls around the house, where you do have a sequence involving them, but it's not nearly as horrific.
Yeah. But it's that baby crawling towards you, and it's like you can actually die, but it'll grab you and swallow you whole, basically. But it's skulking around the place, laughing while it does, looking for you. It honestly, that one part in that game was worth the price tag alone.
Yeah.
It was psychological horror at its finest. It really was.
That section to me felt like either Capcom experimenting or passing the reins on to somebody to basically be like, Resident Evil, but what if Silent Hill?
Yeah.
You know, it was just like, let's really commit to this out there, fucked up, as you said, psychological, like gets under your skin horror.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else in the game like it. And I know that's kind of a criticism of Resident Evil Village, is that it is almost like 4 or 5 separate games kind of jumbled into one.
Yeah.
That one being particularly, like, as you said, PT or kind of classic Silent Hill. The Castle Dimitrescu being, you know, reminiscent of Resident Evil 7, where you can the family,
the bakers, yeah,
Resident Evil 4 with the lake, that kind of stuff.
And then Resident Evil 5 with Heisenberg's that's just pure, it's just pure gun porn in there.
And then of course you even play as Chris at the end. So in
that small section though, it's almost, as you said, it's almost like they said to, like, what they said to an intern, all right, we'll give you a chance at this, write us something here. And it was just that, I've never experienced anything like it. I honest to God, it's been a long time.
The impressive thing though was how, although it didn't fit the horror feeling of the game, they made it work because it fit the story of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ethan is looking for his kid, and like this is like a fucked up like, oh shit, I actually got my kid back and they want to eat me.
Yeah, but isn't the thing though is how clever, like, it's, if they had handed you a weapon and said you can kill it, it's like, but I'm killing a child.
That would have been,
but it was just, it's so you feel claustrophobic already because you're traveling in this linear corridor, this hallway, and then when you hear it laughing, it's like, oh shit. That to me is much more terrifying than any zombie or vampire or anything.
And it's got that kind of distorted, twisted laugh.
Yeah.
So it's like a baby's laugh, but they change the pitch as it's laughing. So it's never level. It's always keeping you on edge.
Up and down. Yeah.
And then even at the end of the section when you're getting in the lift and you start to go up, and it kind of just like bashes against the cage of the lift, and it's like and like the mouth is
mouth and the way it's moving, like it's like the skin is flapping. It was just, that
was sexy.
I've never experienced anything as intense as that. It's been a long time, but that was just it. That for me was, and then I felt so let down afterwards by the rest of the game and how it went. Because it was just like at the end you're Chris and it's just a Call of Duty clone at the end.
It's like shooty bang bang, blow shit up.
Like I just
airstrikes and
literally I just wish they would have, like, now granted it kind of falls between the hard line of, like, if you were to somehow extend that segment, would it fall into the cliche trap of, oh, this needs to end, it's going on too long.
I think it was the right amount, because it was quite a small section of the game. And on repeat playthroughs, when you know exactly how to work around it, it's not as bad.
Mm-hmm.
The bit of the section of that got me was when you have to, so you go into the basement and you get like I think it's like a fuse or a switch or something, and you're going back out and all the lights are off, and then it corners you and you run through the kitchen, you run back into this bedroom, and
you're under the bed.
Under the bed, and like you see it kind of like crawling along. And you're like, oh no, I don't want to be in this room.
The fact that it keeps saying dad. Oh god.
Pure horror.
Horrific. It's horrific.
I like as well. My first point was Resident Evil, and your last point was Resident Evil. So,
there you go. Great minds. So what is your last bullet point, or your last entry, should I say?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that actually I was going to put House Beneviento as my first Resident Evil point.
Oh, okay.
But I decided with Lisa Trevor because it had more of a personal connection.
Sure.
But that worked out well. Happy days.
Yeah.
My last point, it's a weird one. It's not conventional in that it's technically not a game or not in a game, but it is. And it ties into a point you made earlier on. So, in my collection of games over here under the bed, I still have my original PlayStation 2 Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty box with the little instruction manual and the little comic and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Great shit. And it came with the special edition disc. I don't know if did your version have that disc, special edition disc? It was a DVD, like it wasn't a game.
No.
Okay. Nobody else seems to know about this. Maybe I'm on my own here. So it was a DVD which had like making of featurettes and trailer for like Zone of the Enders and that kind of stuff.
Hang on, I think I do have it.
Yeah, so
you could read the script on it as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, I think you could. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You could view character models and things like that.
Yeah, it was nifty little thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there was another trailer on the disc for Silent Hill 2.
Never heard of it.
It's this weird indie game. Yeah, you wouldn't like it. Now, I had never played a Silent Hill game at the time I played Metal Gear Solid 2. So when I watched the trailer, and that's it is a trailer. My last moment isn't even a moment in a game, it is a trailer.
Wow.
I watched the trailer on a DVD because YouTube wasn't much of a thing back then. And that trailer shook me to my core because it's like a 3.5 minute long, proper like in-depth view of the game and like, you know, it shows like all the different characters you're going to meet. It shows like extensive gameplay sections. The music is terrifying. It actually shows you the first time you see Pyramid Head in the kitchen with the mannequin, and I'm like,
yeah,
what the fuck am I watching?
What is this?
Yeah, I had no idea what Silent Hill was when I watched this trailer, and it genuinely put the fear into me, and it put the fear into me so much. I never played Silent Hill, any of them, until years later, because I was too afraid. But I would regularly go back and watch the trailer.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. It was like the trailer had this amazing feeling to it.
Okay.
That I would keep watching, but for some reason I would never play the game. I don't know why.
Okay.
It's just my brain was just wired a bit fucking weird, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, that trailer, like that genuinely terrified me, and I loved it. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be years later if I would eventually go on to play Silent Hill 2 on the not so popular HD version.
Oh.
With Troy Baker as James Sunderland.
Oh.
Yeah, I know it's not the optimal way to play the game, but I think it includes the original voice now.
It does, yeah.
So I on your recommendation, I played that. I was like,
Guy Seehey, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He does James Sutherland. But even then, though, like there were some hammy parts in the original game with the original voice actors. Like,
that was just horror back then.
Are you really here? You know, I'm looking for my wife. Have you seen her? You know.
Yeah. See, I will say though, the voice acting, at least in the trailer, showcased a lot of the better points. There wasn't a lot of actual James dialogue in the trailer. There was mostly like Mary or Maria, you know, the seductive alternative.
Oh yeah, Maria.
Maria. And then I think there was one frame in particular that stuck with me, which was the guy, you know, the guy with the cap,
Eddie,
and he had like the gun to his head.
Killing somebody isn't difficult at all. Yeah.
The reason, there's actually a personal reason that stuck with me, that frame, was because when I was a kid, I shouldn't have done this. I snuck downstairs and I was watching TV when everyone had gone to bed. Naughty Stephen. Naughty Shepherd. And I stumbled across a film called Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And wouldn't you know, it was the scene where Vincent D'Onofrio is sitting in the showers with the rifle.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of, he has the face.
Yeah.
And it was like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Eddie was like Vincent D'Onofrio in that movie to me.
Yeah.
And I just forever linked the two.
That's brilliant.
And it stuck with me. Like, just a frame in a trailer stuck with me.
Yeah.
And like the whole trailer stuck with me, but that particular part just really put the goddamn fear in me.
Yeah.
So that bit of an odd one, bit of a non-conventional choice, but that would be my final.
I love it. I love it.
I love you.
I love it. Well, geez, I mean, we've both made some pretty good entries here.
Yeah.
Kind of sad to see the list going, but there's just to kind of close off this video. And once again, thank you so much for your time joining me on this brand new edition of the Save Point. There's a question I want to ask you though, right? Just to kind of end this.
Okay.
I want to know is what is, it can be from any game, it can be from any trailer, any demo, any whatever. What is one, insert name here, part of a game that you have to psych yourself up to get over? Like, you know it's coming. And it's like, okay, I know it's coming. I just have to get over it. I know I can do it. Like when you played it the first time, like it fucking messed you up so badly.
Yeah.
That you kind of have to build yourself up to do it again when you're playing. One for me anyway was PT.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know it's coming. And I have it's like I know it's coming. It's actually scripted into the game where you're walking, like, because you know PT it takes place in this ever winding corridor, this continuous loop, and it happens when you're just minding your own, you're just walking, minding your own business, and then out of nowhere, Lisa's face will just appear, and it has to happen though, for the game to continue, for you to get the flashlight, I think it is. So you have to. But what I loved about it, it was so unscripted that it would happen at any time.
Yeah.
But the fact I knew it was going to happen, I just didn't know when it was going to happen. I was almost building myself up like it's coming. I know it's here. Oh God. You know, it was one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me like what you said about the alien thing is, and every time you go to play it, it's almost like it's the AI has re-scripted itself. But as you're playing it, it's like I know it's going to happen, but I just don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit of a broad question to ask.
No, it's a good one for sure. And I think for me, I'm looking at my list and see if I.
I mean, I am.
Yeah,
throwing
no,
you
it's great. I love it. I love getting caught off guard with these things because it keeps it fresh. And I believe it or not, I think it actually for me it was a point you made earlier. In Alien Isolation, when you're in the heart of the station and it's covered in all of the goo and it's purely because of the fucking facehuggers.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because like the rest of the game, you're only dealing with the one alien. It's like if I'm smart, I can manage this, and as you said, it becomes a nuisance after a while anyway. But that moment, that section of the game, you're so like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what's going to be around the corner. Is it going to be an alien? Is it going to be a facehugger? I don't know. That part for me, even now playing it so many times later,
you have to psych yourself up to get there.
Yeah. That slash in the same game in the DLC, bit of a cheat, where you replay the original.
The Nostromo.
The Nostromo, yeah.
Yes.
And you're in the air ducts.
Yes, yeah.
And you know someone's directing you around the air ducts, like in the film. That fucking gets me because it's like no, it's in there now, and I'm like, where is it? Fucking tell me, where is it? Is it near me? So yeah, equal parts those two of the same game. They just get me. All of PT.
It's definitely in Alien Isolation, like even when you're in the heart of the station, down in the reactor, and you like the dangerous thing is though, because you want to know where things are, but if you use the voice or the motion tracker, the beep will attract them towards you.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It really is. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Good choice, man. Good choice.
You too.
Good choice. Well, once again, Shepard, I just want to thank you. Once again, thank you very much for joining me on this brand new edition of The Save Point. To everybody who's been watching, leaving great comments, interacting with the channel, we really, really do appreciate it. And please do not forget to save your progress. So signing off on The Save Point, I'm your host, Joker.
I'm your co-host, Shepard. Thanks very much.